So you have come to the decision that you are going to lease out your property for the first time. Congratulations, that's flipping awesome. Hey, but wanted to connect because you're trying to figure out now, how do I lease out my house? What do I need to do? What are the best steps and practices? And what do property management companies do that's different than what I can? Here, so let me give you 7 top tips that you should do when managing your property and leasing it here for the first time. In this video, I'm only going to focus on the leasing portion. I'm going to try to keep it to that. But there are 7 things that I think are like the best, right? And if I could have started all over again, these are things that I wish I would have known getting into it. Some of these are going to be different than when I started. So I've been in this business and leasing out properties since 2005. So it's like, okay, handling it now, there are certain things as a property management company that we see differently because, of course, like technology's changed and all kinds of stuff has happened. But let's get into this. All right. First and foremost, number 1, professional photography. You've got to have professional photography for this home. And when you do professional photography, you want to make sure that the property is super, super, super clean. Imagine with this professional photography, you're going to do it this one time because for the next 5 to 10 years that you have this property, unless you do any major modifications, you're probably going to keep it pretty consistent. You want to keep it super, super, super clean. Remember, this is putting your property's best foot forward. Personally, I recommend that there should not be any type of furniture in the property. I think that a tenant wants to see exactly what they're going to expect in the photos, so there's no shock, awe, there's no mistrust straight from the beginning. Show them exactly what they're getting. Therefore, start with the professional photos. Number 2, how are you going to market it and where are you going to market it? All right, so as a property management company, we have a service that we are able to push it out there to like 50 different websites. Some of those sites we actually have to pay for. Not just like the MLS where we have to co-broke and give another agent some of the commission. I'm talking about straight up Zillow. We have to pay per day when we post a property on Zillow. So when I'm carrying a property on the rental side, or when our company is, we're paying daily. Zillow by far is the best avenue for getting tenants. It gives you the best reach, the best range. We get the most prospects from that site. So excluding that and not paying for it would be a detriment to our properties and the time that it takes to rent them. Keep that in mind when you're doing it. Other services, like if you're posting it on, call it Craigslist, sometimes your stuff can get caught up in some fraud. So just be aware of that. Know what that looks like when it happens. And then number 2, Facebook Marketplace is also a good one. At least then you know who the people are that you're talking to because at least their face is there. But again, I would definitely stick to the websites that are really focused on the housing side, like the Zillows of the world. Number 3, the response to showings. How fast are you responding to the phone calls? How fast are you responding to the emails? It's super, super, super important that you're getting back to people quickly. So what systems are you building or what process do you have in place to make sure that you're going to get back to people quick? The other part is there are services now that allow you to self-show your properties. You can actually put a lockbox on the house and let people walk through it. I don't do it that way. I don't agree with it. I think that it can be more hassle than it's worth. However, it is a service that you as an owner can actually use yourself. We like to use licensed realtors to show every single time. We have technology that's set up to be able to do so. And, it makes the process easier and it answers all people's questions right up front. It's getting on it as fast as possible and letting people get out there and see the property the same day, setting up your process so that you're able to get out there and let them see it. Number 4, lease writing. All right, so standardizing your lease is super, super, super important. I cannot emphasize this enough. And here's why. At some point, if you are managing your own property, there may come a time in your life where you don't want to manage it anymore, right? You want to give it to a property management company. Well, if you give it to a management company that has systems and processes built out, it's very, very, very hard to now take your existing lease that you've created yourself and take those same terms and honor them, right? We don't know what you built into your lease and how it pertains to what we're doing, we follow what's called the standardized forms from the Arizona Association of Realtors. We've then taken that and added, like, think of it as adding an addendum of all the things we learned over the last 15 years doing this and putting it together for our clients. That we're able to use. We know what the what we're going to run into. We know how to honor that lease, and that's where it helps. So whatever lease you put into place, make sure that you know what the terms are. Make sure that you didn't just download something for any random state, that it's particular to the state that you're in, because all laws are different from state to state. Know the rules here, right? The Landlord Tenant Act here in Arizona is easy to download. It's easy to find. Know what your rights are, know what the tenant's rights are, and make sure that you're putting the right things in that lease, so that they can actually be honored. Number 4, when you're screening your tenants. So screening. Oh wait, that's 5. Screening tenants. What service are you going to use for screening? Where are you going to find it? I would recommend for those of you that are doing it yourself, Google tenant screening. You'll find it. The tenants can pay directly. They'll be paying anywhere from, call it $40 to $80 themselves, and those companies will send you information directly. Screening is super, super, super important. And for us, we found that the most important question to ask a prospect is, we want to know what their rental history has looked like and get a copy of the rental history. That's something that is really, really, really important to us, and something that we found has been a very good indicator of whether or not the tenant is going to be the best comparatively to others that are applying. So you'll find your niche. You'll find out what matters most to you. That's what matters most to us. But again, it doesn't have to be your way, because this is, again, something that just is important to us. Number 6, the deposits. Okay, this gets back to the Landlord Tenant Act, or whatever it is, that whatever state you're in, you got to know what deposits you're allowed to charge and what you should be charging. Okay, so what's standard in your area? You don't want to charge grossly over, even if it is allowed. You don't want to be the guy, the most expensive guy on the block, because once people get to that stage of your process, they may go, wait a minute, you're too expensive. Like, I'm not going to pay all those fees. We've seen in the industry, we've seen a lot of property management companies charging just crazy fees, right? Packaging these things in like these little fees that really are just administrative fees, to pad it up. They come out of the tenant's pocket, and for better or for worse, those properties you'll see tend to sit on the market a little bit longer, and ultimately it's like it builds a little bit of distrust with the tenant right out of the gate. So keep that in mind with what you're charging. Also, you want to create that win-win right from the gates, and my recommendation is just be as transparent as humanly possible. You've got to build a relationship with the tenant right out of the gates. There's got to be mutual trust there. Otherwise, in this business, we recognize that your relationship with the tenant is super, super, super important. You both have to trust each other, know what's going on. Inherently, as a landlord, there's going to be mistrust from the other side. That's just the way it is. So don't let that get to you. Be in a situation where you're able to handle that and have that conversation. The other piece, first and last. We talk to a lot of people who've done it themselves, and they charge first and last month's rent. Here in Arizona, that's not the best idea. And the reason for that is because first month's rent is a good idea. Last month's rent is not. You charge first month's rent, and then you charge a security deposit. If the event comes up where you have to go to court and you've got to basically talk to a judge about getting reimbursed for not getting rents, you can't go in and ask for security deposits. So what do? You package that as a security deposit, ultimately giving people their security deposit after they've moved out, which is the right thing to do, and them paying their last months of rent to live there. Otherwise, what's the incentive for a tenant to leave your property in amazing shape? There isn't any. So again, things to learn along the way, but this one I think is a big one. Don't do first and last. If there's one thing that I could tell you from experience and seeing what other people have done, that's something to just scrap it. I don't know where that came from. It's probably other states and how they handle things. All right. Last but not least, number 7, your move-ins. Your move-ins need to be dialed. You need to know, okay, so your tenant is going to get you a list of what's wrong and broken in that property after they moved in. You need to have walked that property and know it inside and out. I recommend taking a video, walking through the home and taking a solid video, then going back after that video and take no fewer than 50 photos of that property in its current condition. You want to do that upon every move in and every move out, right? Just before every move in and just after every move out. You want to know the condition 100% every single time. It's there to protect you. It's there to protect your tenant. It's there, again, from an expectation and transparency point of view. You want your tenant doing the exact same thing. When they move into the property, you want to encourage them. Take photos of everything. Take video of everything. They'll be time stamped, right? So you'll know, hey, was this something that was, broken before they moved in, or was it something afterwards? Then that way, upon move out, it's very, very, very simple to have the conversation to say, hey, this is your responsibility or this is my responsibility. Awesome. Makes that relationship just continue, finishes on a solid point. And hey, at least if anything, there's something there that's concrete that shows exactly what the expectations were. And, it can clear up a lot of things. The other thing, just in collecting deposits, making sure that you are collecting the right deposits for the area that you're in. Again, you can call things fees, you can call them deposits, you can call them whatever, but there is a limit as to what you can charge somebody. So be aware of what that is. Don't exceed it, because that won't help you down the road. I hope this information is super helpful. For me, getting into real estate investing early on, I made a ton of mistakes. And it's something that I hope, this information helps even just the littlest bit in solving a problem that you may or may not even have yet. But again, if you're renting a property and you're doing an amazing job with it and you've got an amazing tenant, awesome, keep it up. When you have to turn that property and you have got to, look at it from another angle, keep this stuff in mind and hopefully it helps you out. See ya.